close out the month of September. This is episode 23 of Bando's Breakdowns with myself, Zain Bando, courtesy of the MC Bench Podcast Network and presented by Playback. Very, very glad to be back with you guys today. Again, another heavy football and combat sports episode, but that's going to become the norm this fall as we get into a literal fall, as we just did the first day of fall a couple of days ago. So thank you again for coming in on your Wednesday afternoon, either listening to me in your car, sitting at your desk, watching the stream, or in other words as well, or if you're just catching up over the last few days. Thank you again for joining me. Just wanted to get out a few quick news and notes out of the way. Be sure to listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, and so much more. It would be greatly appreciated. You could also subscribe to YouTube Premium, still get the audio-only feed, and have YouTube playing in the background as well. For those of you who can't listen to me, you can go to youtube.com/ETB Network as the climb to 1,000 subscribers is still slowly but surely growing. So if you like this show, if you like the latest episode of the MMA Outsiders, episode 99, where we previewed UFC Paris and some other UFC news and notes, as well as a major heavyweight boxing upset from over the weekend, you can go check that out as well. Again, youtube.com/ETB Network. And for those of you who are watching me, you could head over and listen to me, as I said, wherever your podcast. It's going to be an exciting show today. Again, 45 minutes to an hour on all my unfiltered takes in the world of sports and what matters to me. But before we get into anything, just wanted to give a quick shout out over to our partners at Playback. We thank them very much for all of the support that they've given us so far. And without further ado, here we go. Presented by Playback, watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. You can join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule, which is going to get busier as the NBA season is a little over a month away or so. But let's jump into the show. We're going to get into Zain's overview, and we're going to go over what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about a plethora of college football news and notes. We're going to be going over this week in the NFL. I'm going to be kicking myself because those of you who have been riding with my Bando's Blitz videos the last 2 weeks, and for those of you who have been riding with my Survivor picks, you unfortunately have been eliminated just as I have, because if you rode with a certain team, you got burned, unfortunately. And one of the biggest upsets of the NFL season so far. We're also going to be briefly previewing UFC Paris. We're going to be going over Callum Walsh's fight at the 3 Arena in Dublin, Ireland that took place this past Friday. That was a UFC-produced 360 Promotions boxing event on UFC Fight Pass that turned out really, really well. We're also going to go over a few other additional things, but it should be a good show. We're going to open the show as we have the last couple of weeks. We're going to open it with the Big Ten, and we're going to open it with Illinois. They're 4-0 for just the second time since 2011. It's the first time since just the second time since 2011. The first time rather being back in 1951. So Illinois is off to a historic start. They've currently bumped themselves up in the AP poll rankings from number 24 to number 19 after a 31-24 overtime win over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. A very impressive performance there. You had a Luke Altmaier touchdown pass from 4 yards out in the first series of overtime to put Illinois ahead for good, and of course several sacks by the Illini, including on the final play of overtime, sealed the win. So Illinois is now 4-0, and they'll have their second Big Ten test against Drew Aller and number 9 Penn State. Those guys are coming off of a 56-0 blowout over Kent State a week ago. So this should be a very exciting game. The line on this game is at several sports books between 16.5 and 17.5 in favor of Penn State, depending on which sports book of choice that you look at. And this is something that I totally disagree with. I think that Illinois is a very underrated team. They're one of 2 teams that have multiple ranked wins on the season, the other one being Tennessee. And I think they're firing in all cylinders. Luke Altmaier has had perfect stat lines except for one game so far this season. He only has one interception on the year so far. Pat Bryant is having a breakout season. He now has 6 touchdown receptions. He had 2 touchdown receptions last week in Lincoln, and the defense is doing all they can to hold the opposing offenses in check, even though Illinois was in a dogfight last week against Dylan Raiola in Nebraska. I think this is a huge game for Illinois, arguably the biggest game of the Brett Bielema tenure so far in Champaign. He's familiar with going to State College and getting big road upsets. He did the same in his first year as Illinois head coach in the longest game in college football history, 9 overtimes, ruining Penn State's homecoming in 2021. The final score there was 20-18 as the winning touchdown was thrown to Casey Washington, who's now in the NFL. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons on special teams and is still looking to potentially become a breakout star in the league as he's only a rookie. So Brett Bielema is known for going into these environments before. He's pulled off upsets like this in the past. I don't think the stage is too big for Illinois. However, what I do feel is that Penn State is simply the better team. It's going to be a dogfight till the very end of the game. It might very well be a shootout type of game where both teams will be trading punches the whole game, and whoever has the ball last is going to win. That's essentially been the MO of some of these Big Ten teams. Is and they get down early if they can get a couple turnovers and they can have the ball last. Anybody has a shot to win any game in this league. So I think that's very exciting, number one. And number two, just the parity surrounding college football and the amount of sheer upsets that have occurred so far this season have been nothing short of unbelievable. So is 17 points a lot of points? Potentially, yeah. But I do think that if Illinois can keep the game close, if they can stop the run game, Penn State has multiple running backs that do damage, including Katron Allen, who's already having potentially a breakout year. And as I alluded to, the quarterback is excellent, and they have a very, very NFL stout defense or NFL caliber stout defense with a lot of guys that are potentially going to be going to the NFL draft. So this is going to be a great game. I am picking Penn State. I do think Illinois covers the spread, though. I think the final score is 24-17. I think it has a chance to go to overtime, just like the 2021 game did. But what I do think is a guarantee is whoever has the ball last is going to win the game. I don't think there's any way that Penn State blows this Illinois team out. This Illinois team has proven that they can hang with the best in the country. Is Kansas a little bit of a fraud after dropping a bunch of games in a row after the Illinois game? You can maybe argue that, but still 4-0, very impressive, number 19 in the country for a program that is not primarily known for football. This is a big deal, and you have to remember too, even if Illinois loses this game, that puts them at 4-1, and they have a fledgling Purdue team coming to Champaign the week after their bye. So there's a lot to be excited about if you are Illinois. Unfortunately for Illinois' chances, though, they may have dwindled a little bit, considering that Michigan was able to hold off USC at home at the Big House last week. So that game could be even bigger if Illinois beats Penn State and beats Purdue to get to 6-0 going into the Michigan game, but that's easier said than done. So for now, I am picking Penn State to win the game, hand Illinois its first loss of the season, and go into the bye week looking to regroup and come home for 2 in a row against Purdue, and then, of course, the rededication game against Michigan on October 19th. Very, very exciting stuff, though, from an Illinois perspective. Again, just considering how quick Brett Bielema's turnaround has been. Again, you have to remember, too, in 2022, he had one of the best defenses in the country, led them to an 8-5 season, a loss in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Mississippi State, but nonetheless, it's been a nice turnaround, and this is still a part of the story. One final note on this, it's the third rematch game of the season. Bielema likes to plug these all the time whenever a rematch game comes up. Pretty much his definition of a rematch game is if they played the team the year before and they're on their schedule the following year, he considers it a rematch game. This is the third rematch game of the season so far. Illinois is 2-0. Penn State will be the fourth one, and and you'd have to look way later into the season to find another rematch game. There's going to be less because of the new look Big Ten, but still, he points to these rematch games as must-win games, and Happy Valley State College, PA, is going to be a crazy environment. Head coach James Franklin is calling for whiteout energy, which I think is going to add a bit of extra motivation to for Illinois to silence 90 plus thousand people again for the second consecutive week. So that'll be very exciting. And then we're going to get to this later, but this is Under the Lights, NBC, Big Ten Saturday Night College Football. Doesn't get any bigger stakes than this if you're a young program. So Illinois should embrace it, and hopefully the game lives up to the hype, and hopefully Luke Altmaier can ball out in arguably the biggest game of his college career so far. So it should be a very, very exciting atmosphere in State College. We're going to move along, though, from Pennsylvania back to Indianapolis. The Bears just absolutely looked horrible despite Caleb Williams throwing for over 300 yards. They found a new way to lose, and this week it was to an Indianapolis Colts team that was one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And I just want to say, because everybody's talking about it, the speed option right before halftime just made no sense to me whatsoever. It's fourth and whatever it was, or third down. You're trying to get any points you can. And running the ball well on the whole drive, and you run a speed option to where the Colts just had it read unbelievably from the second the play happened. When DeAndre Swift goes on record and says that he is very frustrated and used a bunch of other words that I'd rather not repeat, but essentially in so many words, he said that he was very frustrated with the run game. I would be too. That's a Colts team that you're supposed to beat. That's a Colts team that's fragile. They were 0-2 going into the game. Did not play particularly well the previous week against the Packers. And then in week one, beat a Texans team that looks like they've fallen totally back to earth after a 34-7 loss to Minnesota in week three. So this was a game that the Bears should have probably won. And that's the real disappointing thing. And I think this is one of these gut check games to where if the Bears don't fix things, maybe Shane Waldron's not the right guy at offensive coordinator. And, there's also been talk in the Bears fan Twitter sphere that, they don't think Eberflus is the guy. I'd have to disagree. I still think the Bears are staying in games. This defense is still very much legit. They're a young defense. They make key plays when they need to. They're not folding at the end of games. They're doing everything they can to win. It's just simply putting the pieces together. And again, we can't harp on Caleb Williams too much. And the reason why I'm giving him somewhat of a pass is because he's a rookie quarterback and he's never played at the pro level before. Is he maybe not as fully developed a quarterback as maybe what Bears fans were expecting going into this year? There's a good chance that that's a possibility. Maybe this is not the coaching staff for him, but to write him off, not even a month gone by into the season with 1 week to go until this being the final week of September, I think it's a little bit unfair, and it's a little bit of a dig at a kid who made USC one of the most prolific offenses in college football. So I don't think this game is fully on Caleb Williams. I think this game is partially on the coaching and the ineptitude that occurred before halftime. And to run 49 plays in the first half and score 0 points is just inexcusable. If the Bears let anything close to that happen again, they're in for a long year. Thankfully, they're playing a Rams team that might be a little bit worse, but the Rams did find a way to beat San Francisco this past week on a miracle ending with a couple minutes to go in regulation. So you never know what could happen there, but still a tough blow for the Bears. They finally come back to Soldier Field. Maybe they can get their legs under them and so much more. But this was a very tough loss on the road in Indianapolis. We'll get to Bears-Rams in just a little bit. But before that, we're going to move over from the United States to the United Kingdom because we had a massive boxing upset take place. Tom and I went over this Tom and I previewed this in a YouTube short video, and we also recapped it on episode 99. Daniel Dubois defends his IBF heavyweight title 59 seconds into round 5, knocking out Anthony Joshua. And this is a significant moment. No one really gave Daniel Dubois a chance. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna triple check this. He's relatively a younger heavyweight champion, given who else who else competes in that division. He's 27 years old, so he's one of the younger heavyweight champs that we have in boxing. And to beat a guy like Anthony Joshua, who's fought a who's who of top flight heavyweights, and to do what he did to him, and literally, as my co-host alluded to, and as other people alluded to, beat him pillar to post. That fight was not close from the second the fight started until it was over. Anthony Joshua looked like a shell of what could become his former self. We still really don't know. Anthony Joshua is still one of the best heavyweights in the world, and I'm on the side that I think a rematch needs to happen. I'm not discounting Daniel Dubois' performance, but I know that Anthony Joshua can fight better than that. The second fight sells extremely well on pay-per-view. I'm almost positive, and it gives the Fury Usyk 2 winner, in my opinion, more of an incentive to show out, to show that they are ready for Daniel Dubois and or Anthony Joshua. But knowing the IBF, they'll probably give Daniel Dubois a mandatory challenger, more than likely somebody like a Philip Ergovic a Zhang. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name. I think it's Zelly Zhang is his name or something like that. So if he gets one of those two, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. But this rematch, I think, sells itself. People were in awe of the shocking ending to the way the fight concluded, and I think a rematch has a chance to be 2 times, maybe 3 times bigger than that. So it'll be interesting to see what occurs from there. But still, the IBF heavyweight champion remains with Daniel Dubois, upsets Anthony Joshua, and shocks the world in this newly minted Riyadh season era of heavyweight boxing, where it feels like every single fight from here on out is just going to get bigger and bigger. So I think overall it's exciting for the sport, and it's also exciting for the casual fan, considering that the pay-per-view was only $20. Moving over from England to Dublin, Ireland, though, we have Callum Walsh, who's very star-studded and represented well by 360 Promotions and UFC CEO Dana White. He had a fight in front of a capacity crowd at the 3 Arena, which has been known to hold some pretty major sporting events over the years, including Conor McGregor's TKO against Diego Brandao about a decade ago. So Callum Walsh was able to have his moment in the sun, and he fought this kid, Ranowski, who was a heavy underdog, and Callum Walsh made it look super easy. Got the TKO win. Is looking to fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. This is a guy that I think has done really well getting the slow build treatment. And what I mean by the slow build treatment is that he's not fighting competitors who have canned records, or a guy where it's going to be a pushover. The only guy that you can maybe say had that was maybe Wesley Tucker a year and a half ago, but outside of that, he's fought legitimate competition over the last couple of years, and for him to have as many knockouts as he does, for him to be undefeated, I think he's now 12-0 with 10 KOs. I'm pretty sure now. I mean, it's very impressive given his age and given how young the kid is. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I don't think enough people are talking about just how marketable the guy is. He looks like your quintessential Irish boxer. He is your quintessential Irish boxer, and he's someone who is just open to bigger challenges and bigger fights. And working with a coach like Freddie Roach, who has worked with the likes of Manny Pacquiao and others, especially at this point in his career, is overly impressive. So I think Callum Walsh is a name to watch, as well as Dana White's introduction into the sport of boxing. He could be the guy to catapult whatever Dana White's Zuffa boxing creation ends up looking like, because I think it's very interesting. And again, I don't think it's being covered enough, just given how young this kid is, and given how relatively unknown, I would say, to a casual audience he is. But for those of you who do know him, you know that he has the star power potential to be one of the most exciting boxers in recent years. So that's always exciting to look forward to. Moving back over to the NFL, the Bears come home to play the Rams. The Rams just came off of a miracle win at home against San Francisco, and the Bears were somehow favored. I think this line is begging you to pick the Rams, considering how ugly the Bears game looked. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with those people. I think the Rams win this game. I think they have a better quarterback. I think they have a better coach. I think they have better receivers. I pretty much think that they're better everywhere, no matter where the game goes. I think the Bears keep it close for like maybe a quarter and a half or so, but I think the Rams win comfortably here, 27-17. I think Matt Stafford has a huge day throwing the ball. I think Caleb Williams will do well for a half, and then I think he'll probably get sacked maybe 2 or 3 times. I have the ball late in the game, and I think the Bears will find a way to lose. Unfortunately, it's gonna be a tough loss for the Bears. I think this Rams team is a good team. Again, I think the Bears keep it close, but I just think the Rams, coming off of all that momentum, beating a good San Francisco team and overcoming 3 touchdowns from Brock Purdy is not easy. And the Rams need a signature road win, and to do it in Chicago, I think before the gauntlet of their October begins, where they have a lot of tough games, kind of in the middle of their schedule, this would be a good get-right game for LA. So I'm picking the Rams. Obviously, I'd love to see the Bears win. I just think the Rams are slightly better, and I think that line is incorrect. I think the Rams should be favored on the road, but you know that the home team always gets 3 points. So Vegas has to respect the Bears in that regard. That's the only reason why I think Vegas believes that the Bears have a chance, is because of that 3-point golden rule, and with it potentially being a close game. So just something to monitor there as well. We're going to move over now into UFC Paris. We have a UFC event this upcoming Saturday. It's an international show, first international show in quite a while. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Renato Moicano. I've already went through this fight. I'm just going to reiterate again. I like Benoit Saint-Denis by decision. I think him fighting in front of his home country, it's too big of a spot for him not to fight well. And even though Moicano knows his back's against the wall, in only his second main event in the UFC, I think that Benoit Saint-Denis is just a little bit better. I think when you have a fight like Dustin Poirier on your resume that you nearly win is a big feather in the cap, win or lose. And this is no disrespect to the guys that Renato Moicano has fought, but I just think that Benoit Saint-Denis is a little bit better. I think he'll be able to use his striking and a mix of wrestling, and he'll win a decision or he'll win either a 3rd or 4th round TKO. But to go more conservative, I will take Saint-Denis here to get the win. It's a decent fight night card. It's not the best. I'm pretty sure it's a 14-fight card with a morning start for the prelims and then mid-afternoon exclusively on ESPN Plus. So be sure to not miss it in the midst of all the college football that's going on Saturday. Just a quick shout out, that will be UFC Paris ahead of UFC 307 in Salt Lake City, Utah next week, and then back-to-back UFC Fight Night cards before going to Abu Dhabi near the end of October. So just something to keep in mind there. This is the last UFC event of the month of September. We had a week off post UFC Sphere, so now we're back on the regular schedule through Thanksgiving, and this is the first card. This is the first card in that stretch. Before we move away from this, just wanted to give you guys a quick recap as to how I'm doing on the UFC so far this year, because it's something I haven't really chronicled in the last few weeks because there's not been a UFC event. So going into UFC Paris, I'm sitting at 207, 168, and 4. On UFC 306, I went 500, and on UFC Vegas 97, I went 7-5. Looking at my main event record, which is not great, we can look here. It's right here. It's right here. Okay, so my main event record overall is currently sitting at 15-16. So if Saint-Denis can win, I'll be back at 500. And then my pay-per-view record is 5-4 going into UFC 307. So hopefully we can have a better close to the year there as well. We're going to move into some sports media news now. We had Adrian Wojnarowski retiring from NBA and ESPN reporting to become the general manager of the St. Bonaventure men's basketball program. Just wanted to give a quick shout out. He's obviously in my opinion and in most people's opinions, the best basketball insider on the planet. He will surely be missed, but good for him. He wants to do something that he's really passionate about, and he probably feels the burnout of being able to get the scoop first and being able to get it right and all the connections he has and whatnot. I don't fully blame him for this decision, but I do think that a piece of journalism is lost with his presence in the NBA, and I think his move over to the college ranks is interesting. And given how many people he knows, I think people getting recruited to St. Bonaventure, I think, is going to be much easier than ever before, given the name value that he has, and given that they have had success in the NCAA tournament in the last decade or so. I think you'll be seeing a lot more NCAA tournament appearances from them, even if they are just a 500 program or a little bit better. So this is good for him. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here, just in terms of, how much he still follows the NBA. I'm sure he will, but it'll probably be on a less public basis. But just wanted to give a quick shout out to one of the GOATs of NBA instant social media reporting when it comes to being an insider for a league. There's no one better. There's Adrian Wojnarowski, or was Adrian Wojnarowski for the NBA. It's probably now going to be Shams moving forward for that. I'd say hockey, you'd still have to go with Barry Melrose. For MMA, you'd still have to go with Ariel Helwani, and then of course with the NFL, you'd have to go with Adam Schefter. So you're still going to have a big four or a big five, if you will. And I guess for the MLB, Jeff Passan for sure is probably the one insider that I always go to for major MLB news and whatnot. So you're still going to have a big four or a big five, but a hole is going to be missing in the NBA, at least for the next little bit. So maybe the next generation of reporters, I certainly won't be one of them, because I don't intend to cover the NBA really at any point in the future unless the right opportunity came about. But I do think the next generation of reporters in the generation that I'm currently in could potentially fill the void and do things that Woj did, but do it a little better than he did, or do things that nobody else is doing. So that'll be interesting to see where he goes from here, especially just given that he's now a full-time GM and he's no longer in the sports media space. So just something to take a look at there. Okay, so now we're going to move back over to the NFL, and I got to deliver the bad news to everyone. I'm officially out of all of my NFL survivor pools. Thanks to the Las Vegas Raiders losing to the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. I still don't even know how the hell that happened, but it did. I'm officially out of every NFL survivor pool that I was a part of, and the last one was the Raiders losing in my ESPN Eliminator Challenge. So for the second consecutive year, I am no longer part of NFL Survivor. It's very unfortunate. So now moving forward, that's a little teaser for those of you who watch Bando's Blitz or have the last 2 weeks. You are going to be getting a 6-pack from me. You are going to be getting 3 college football games, and you are going to be getting 3 NFL games moving forward to see if we can rectify our record from there. We finished with an overall NFL survivor pool record this past week at, I would say, likely just it probably would have been 1-3, so not the best survivor season, if you will. We're going to try again next year, but we still have NFL pick'em, we still have college football pick'em, and we still have other stuff to take a look at as well. Speaking of and anyway, for those of you who follow football forecast, before I just went on the air today, we were adding up our overall records for our NFL picks. But just to keep it simple, on Yahoo Sports, I'm currently at 28 points, sitting at a 28-20 overall NFL pick'em record. So hopefully that'll improve as the season goes on, that I'm no longer in Survivor anymore. But we'll see. The NFL season's been crazy. You got to pick a couple upsets every week. Otherwise, you're going to get burned, just like I did this past weekend. You'll find out more on that on upcoming editions of Football Forecast, as well as upcoming editions of this show. So be sure to stay tuned with all of that. We're going to move over, though, to Zain Zinger, and I want to talk quickly about a decision that was made in regards to a TV spot for the college football game. Illinois versus Penn State, I think it's the perfect game for NBC Saturday night. The Peacock game is going to be Ohio State versus Michigan State, but to give these two teams the shine that they deserve, to give Illinois the shine that they deserve after not getting national recognition for the last several years, kudos to NBC for picking this game. This is a game that people were hinting at would maybe be the game that was given to Illinois after their win against Nebraska. There was immediate speculation after the game. Oh, is NBC going to give Illinois versus Penn State the love? They did. Big Ten Saturday night. Hey, don't miss it. I forgot to tell you guys, though, and this is my bad, when I was previewing Illinois Penn State, the kickoff for this game is at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So don't miss it. Again, a huge game for both teams. Huge game potential for rankings boost and so much more, and a ratings boost as well. That'll be a huge game directly competing with Georgia versus Alabama, which is always a good time there. I'm just going to say this briefly. Colorado is the luckiest team alive. They needed a Hail Mary to force to extend the game against Baylor. And obviously, of course, Colorado won the game in overtime with a field storm, which was uncalled for. Beating Baylor is nothing special, but I understand when you are officially a Big 12 school now, or in the midst of becoming a Big 12 school, if you will. I guess that's an historical feat, but still, man, Colorado is the biggest prima donna show in college football. Couldn't stand seeing Baylor lose like that. I had Baylor to cover the spread in my Yahoo College football spread picks. So I had a couple of choice words to my hotel TV this weekend when that Hail Mary was good. I was pretty disappointed to see that that's how the game continued. Literally after the announcers were saying that this could happen, considering that it didn't happen in 1994 with Stewart to Westbrook against Michigan. And of course, it happened again about 30 years later. So it's crazy how divine intervention works in mysterious ways, if you will. But this team is the luckiest team in the world. I hope they lose 4 in a row now. And this is just a circus that I don't think we need in college football necessarily. And I just think Deion Sanders continues, in my humble opinion, to make an ass out of himself. So I am not particularly a fan of this team. If you guys have not been able to tell over the last several episodes now since the season began, and this is just another way for Colorado to piss me off directly and indirectly. So this was a very unfortunate ending, and one of the luckiest passes I've ever seen. I'm so disappointed. Very similarly to how my producer behind the scenes thinks that the Jets are the luckiest team in the NFL, I think that Colorado is the luckiest team in college football, and they will continue to be until they show me that they can run a competent offense that just isn't Sanders to Travis Hunter. But in any event, we're going to move on from that. We're going to move back over to the MMA space now, and Conor McGregor continues to anguish me. He liked a fan's tweet over the weekend that showed Conor McGregor in a video significantly buzzed at the Joshua Dubois fight. And essentially, ACD MMA, the fan account, tweeted that McGregor is never coming back to MMA. And fortunately or unfortunately, no matter how you want to look at it, McGregor liked the tweet. So I don't know if that means that he unofficially is announcing his retirement for good this time, or what the heck this means. But it took the internet by storm, and this man is in a world of his own. He's more focused on promoting bare knuckle. He's more focused on promoting his whiskey and several other things. Very, very disappointing to see from him act in this selfish, anguished way. But this is Conor McGregor being Conor McGregor. I don't know when he's coming back. I don't know who he's going to fight. I don't know if it's going to be the winner of Chandler Oliveira. I don't know if it's going to be Dustin Poirier. I don't know if it's going to be Nate Diaz. Nobody knows. It's an ongoing saga. Something will probably happen hours after this recording is over that I'll have to probably reluctantly react to at some point in the future. But this ongoing cycle continues, and I don't think it's going to be ending anytime soon. All right, we're going to close the show now. We're moving into another week in the NFL. Just wanted to go over all the games that you're going to be expecting going into this week in the NFL. So just to give a quick run through of the slate, here we go. So going into week number 4, we're in week 4 of 18, if you can believe it. The Thursday night game sees Dallas traveling to the Giants. The Saints will go to Atlanta. Denver will go to the Jets. Pittsburgh will go to Indianapolis as the Colts are looking for their second win of the year. Pittsburgh is looking to remain undefeated. The Eagles go to Tampa Bay after a huge road win in New Orleans, back-to-back NFC South opponents. The Commanders, off of a huge win on Monday night, go to Arizona. Potential trap game to look out for if you were a better there. Cleveland goes to the Raiders, and arguably the biggest game of the season for the Raiders, because if they lose this one, all of the momentum is going to be sucked out of that building in Las Vegas. Tennessee goes to Miami, and it looks like Miami is without Skylar Thompson, so that'll be interesting. That's the Monday night game. Let's see. The Bengals go to Carolina. That's going to be the return of Andy Dalton against his old team, but this time it's in Carolina, not in Cincinnati. Jacksonville goes to Houston. The Vikings go to Green Bay. The Rams go to the Bears. New England goes to San Francisco. The Chiefs go to the Chargers. And then in a critical Sunday night game with potential late season playoff implications based on how the standings shake out, Bills and the Ravens at 8:25 Eastern as well. You get my picks later on this week, as you usually do, as we look to try to have a bounce back week in the NFL this week moving forward. So that'll be interesting to see if that can come to fruition. Some college football games. So we'll look out for this upcoming week. It's a major top 25 slate. We already went through Illinois versus Penn State. Wanted to go through some of the other games that are going to be going on as well in the world of college football this upcoming weekend, because we have a lot of them. So you guys are ready. Here we go. Virginia Tech goes to number 7 Miami. Ohio State goes to Michigan State. That's a Peacock exclusive. Iowa State goes to Houston. As we just alluded to, Illinois plays Penn State. Kentucky plays Ole Miss. That'll be a raucous environment. Minnesota goes to the Big House. Oklahoma State goes to Kansas State. That's a huge game. It's a ranked matchup, number 20 versus number 23. Looking like a very nice day in Manhattan. Currently sitting at 69 degrees for the upcoming weather forecast this weekend. BYU goes to Baylor. Wisconsin travels cross-country to the West Coast to take on USC, who's looking for a major bounce-back win. Well, Wisconsin still has a monotony of issues on both sides of the ball, a very inconsistent team there. Louisville, who's all of a sudden off to a hot 3-0 start, goes to Notre Dame. That'll be a good game. Oklahoma comes into Jordan Hare Stadium in Auburn. That's a potential upset alert there. Arkansas goes to Texas A&M. Mississippi State goes to Texas. Stanford goes to number 17 Clemson after Clemson just routed NC State a week ago. Speaking of that route, Clemson is a 21.5-point favorite at the time that we're recording this. And then, of course, the game of all games, number 2 Georgia versus number 3 Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Bryant-Denny Stadium. Hotels have been sold out for months. I think they've been sold out as early as February, right before the Super Bowl. So if you don't have a ticket, you're not getting one. And if you have a ticket, savor it and do not sell it, because that is the biggest game on the college football calendar at this very moment. Although you could have number 1 versus number 2 between Georgia and Texas in a couple weeks if things shake out as they're supposed to. But that is the college football slate moving forward. I do not believe I had any errors this week, which is good. That means we had a very clean show this week. And that's going to do it for another edition of Bando's Breakdowns. This has been episode 23. Thank you again for tuning in, and it's greatly appreciated. Just one final reminder, please be sure to go give this thing a like. Please be sure to share it, and please be sure to subscribe. YouTube.com/ETV Network. And again, for those of you who are watching me, go over to the audio-only platforms. You can get this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, and so much more. Until then, my name is Zain Bando. We will see you in October for episode 24 of Bando's Breakdowns and a lot of other short-form content, clips, and Bando's Blitz episodes on the way. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and I hope you enjoy the wild weekend in sports, both for college football, the NFL, and of course on the combat sports side of things. But until then, I will see you guys soon, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.